Dear human, dear soul, I welcome you to my podcast series, Conversations with the Universe. Since a near-death experience, I have the gift to communicate with subtle levels of the cosmos. The knowledge from these for us invisible forms of energy I capture in my books, and it is now a great pleasure for me to share this knowledge, these conversations, with you as a supplement to the books. Please excuse me if the terms and articulations are not perfect. Our mother tongue is German, but we try to translate it to the best of our abilities. Thank you.
Today we meet a very special being named Dom Ingrid. Dom Ingrid, a woman, is nothing transmitted, meaning she will now describe to us, from her perception outside the body, a man. From her life that she wants to share with us, about her transition and her current work. So, let's just tell completely uninfluenced by any stories and traditions. I'll start. Dear Dom Ingrid, I would like to get to know you as I have come to know all the other entities that have been incorporated into Joao here in Abajanja. So can I ask you about that?
Yes, gladly. I want to tell you about my experiences with the female gender, which I found very cleansing. I have reincarnated in other lives, also as a male, but I felt the female form was optimal for me and my development. The time is stored within me as a time of purification. I unfortunately cannot remember any time you refer to.
No problem. Then, let's just dive into your time of cleansing. Please tell me, did you have a happy childhood as a girl?
Yes. I was especially protected during my childhood. I am very grateful to my parents for that. This strength they gave me was very special. Then a period of reflection began within me, which I needed to understand who I really am. This period was very important to me, and I went to a religious institution for that. I spent many years there, which I enjoyed a lot, because there I felt very protected again. One day, it happened that the essence of Mary was perceived in the church.
How did you perceive that?
The power near Mary became very strong, and I knew at that moment she was with me. Then I spoke to her and she replied. The first question I had was about the church consecration and whether I might experience it one day. Maria responded to this with a connection she showed me, in the form of a feeling. I knew the power I felt was the divine power of femininity. So I started to understand that I have to act as a female person, Amtsagida, and not in a genderless form despite my shape as a woman.
Interesting. In what way was that an answer to the church consecration?
The question
But her answer was like a path to the world.
And you understood it as her advising you to simply follow your path of strength and not to suppress it. As such institutions, for example, in the form of celibacy and other forms of renunciation, like to do.
Exactly.
And how did it continue? I mean, what was your next question?
The next question I had was about the origin of all existence. I wanted to know where God resides. She sent me another picture. The energy I particularly perceived in her was connected to a source I can't describe. The power in this source is always there and never changing. I understood that as the answer to my question about God, and I realized that God is not male. as I had thought. And so I was ready to take the new steps.
And the goods?
The last question I asked her was about the meaning of life. I wanted to know why people always see life so negatively and can't shift to a positive perception. She sent me a loving hug and began to send this energy into my heart. That's when I understood that the energy is in our hearts, and many people there have very little energy. This was very understandable to me since I met people who seemed very cold. And in that moment of Maria's embrace, I knew that a touch from her was in love. So much warmer it is than what I found in people so far.
Wow. And what conclusion did that lead you to?
The next few days were hard for me, because I realized that the form I was in was not the right one. As a human, my strength is limited, but I wanted to increase that strength. Therefore, I allowed myself to live this energy in the form of love, as I do now.
Wow. Does that mean you chose to end your life? Oh, that must have been a really tough step, because I think you don't really find open ears for that, especially in the church.
I couldn't help but overcome all that.
Wow. Do you think Maria wanted you to get out of shape that quickly? Leaving your body?
I wanted to make a difference and help. And I knew I couldn't do it in this human form. This world I was in was very cold, and I needed a lot of strength to overcome this coldness. And in the end, to have experienced only a loving person. That wasn't enough for me. May I ask you about your transition? How was it? How did you enter and go through the transition? Mary's love was my home. I knew where I wanted to go. So I wasn't scared at that time. And what did you do? How did you die? That was in the church. I wanted to be with her when I left.
What exactly did you do?
The doctors helped me with sleeping pills. I didn't do this in her consciousness. I acquired these means and then took them in the church.
Wow. Were you alone the whole time and didn't feel guilty? I mean, towards your family, for example?
The family I had was a bridge to this experience. I was in the monastery most of the time and hadn't had contact with my family for a long time. It's true that there were issues of conscience. Still, the longing for home was so great that I couldn't do it any other way. Then began the journey of the soul through the worlds. I knew what Mary's energy feels like, and thus I knew exactly where I wanted to go, into any state I desire. The first perception was the energy of other people, but these were without bodies as we knew them, so they were deceased. I perceived their energy, but I did not see their faces. That was very scary, but I managed to calm down. I saw people connected to each other, and I saw how their hearts were closed. This connection was very weak in most people. Then I moved on to the next level. I have a quick question. In the level you just described, what was your environment like? Was it bright or rather dark? The environment, when I perceived these human energies, was very dark. And that was very frightening too. What happened next? The next step was very bright. It was much warmer there. And I felt the love a bit more in them. Deceased were also present. But their energies were brighter and vibrating higher. I knew they were more connected to the source than the others. Were there many of them? Yes, there were many. But I can't give you any numbers, Sylvia. And then I moved to the next level. There, I found the angels and fell in love with their power. I knew the angels from the pictures in the church. But these angels were much more loving. The power from them was connected by far more than we can understand in earthly perception. The angels were beings of light that represented a sphere within themselves. But I wanted to perceive them in the form I carried with me all those years. Then I climbed further into the realm of the masters. I was connected there and still wanted to go further, but I couldn't. The strength I had wasn't enough to rise any higher. That made me a bit sad. But I started to remember that I can feel the power of Mary. So I followed this feeling further, and it led me to a new perception. This energy that she radiates cannot be found in any form. She is the power of femininity in energy form.
And how did it continue from there?
I had this realization already in the church. But now I wanted to find this form of energy. I continued my search. I traveled this plane of masters and continued to research within myself to see if I could find this power somewhere. Then at one moment, did I connect with the power of their love, bright energy. And I drew strength I didn't have before. And that's how I started to reach the next level.
So, you focused on your intention and your strength, changed your energy so that your perception changed, and you perceived them more.
That's how it is. Then I arrived at the 4th level. I was now on the level of masters with extraordinary qualities. And I knew, here I can better connect with her than before. So I started searching even more. And I found Dominatio.
How did you perceive him?
The energy he is warm and bright. And for a moment I thought it was Mary. But soon I realized that he is Dominatio. And then I observed his work in the human world. I saw him at work in the human world, even though he was in this realm. And I didn't understand that. Therefore, I continued to observe. Without help, I would never have understood exactly what he was doing, because he is very preoccupied.
What do you mean without help? So, who helped you?
The power of Val Divino, which I soon felt too, was my salvation. He was full of love and the power of love. I watched Ignacio. Val Divino watched me. That brought him to me and we communicated. In his way of perceiving, he communicated through pure thoughts. This made me feel even more connected to him, making me want to understand it even more. This type of communication was unfamiliar to me, but I knew it was the right thing to do. Then I slowly began to understand how Dom Ignazio does this work, and wanted to get involved in it too. So I began to visit the place where he worked, in the world of humans. That made me enter this medium's body once. But I couldn't bear the confinement. I needed space. And so I decided to stay connected to this level. But I'm not going into a body.
Just to clarify, because you said inner communication purely with thoughts, you mean telepathically?
Yes.
So, did you only have your attention then, without forcing yourself completely into the body of the medium? Did some teleportation, didn't you? How would we say it?
That's one way to put it.
Are you also involved in the invisible operations?
Yes. These kinds of operations, as you call them, are very helpful for the souls, and I'm glad to be a part of it if I can help.
Are you happier now than you were as a human?
Oh, yes.
Do you have any idea why you incarnated back then?
Yes. It was a process of purification. I needed the narrowness to find the breadth.
I get it. What restricted you the most in that human body?
The rules of the people, especially the monastery rules. This force is not healthy in its concept, as it separates people from the actual field of effect. But energy is never separate. Therefore, the help through praying in a special way is not human. But I can't find the words for it.
I get it. You're trying to say these forms are generally for a time. They might be fine, but not permanently, as they ultimately separate the energies. And to separate what cannot be separated, right?
Yes, you could say it like that. The fields of human activity must flow into each other and not work separated from one another. Is that easier to understand?
Yes, got it. It's connected. Don't worry. But generally speaking, the monastery has always been a place of protection, right?
Yes. But the limited form there is not good. I would have liked the opportunity to change that. The insights were so profound that I could no longer stay there. Isn't that proof enough of how I felt?
Yes, I understand. You felt powerless, mainly because you saw what needed to be changed in others but couldn't do anything about it, right? How do you perceive people from your level now?
People still have very cold hearts, but I always bring them love when I touch them. It opens their hearts, and that is healing.
How do you touch her then?
People just need attention, and I give it to them.
Do you go to the rooms of the casa for that?
Yes.
And when you do that, is there something that makes you sad when you're there? Yes.
People get so much strength from us, and then they waste it again. That is sometimes a bit sad. But I am not one to dwell in sorrow, so please don't take these words too literally. As a human, as a comparison...
Don't worry, I get you. You all just find it a pity. Exactly. Okay. And what makes you happy in this activity?
People, when they heal. That is really great to watch. Then I start to feel joy inside me. Like a little girl back then. That is always very nice.
You now have the opportunity to deliver a message to the people if you like. Please begin.
Gladly. The love within us is the key to the source. The women must open their hearts to love men, And the men, do they have to open their hearts to love women? This power cannot be described with words in terms of its value. The realization that God is not a person who directs everything, but a source of power that guides everything, make the importance of masculinity and femininity and your forms even more significant. It is very important to me for people to find their strength. Love for God, isn't it the love towards a man or a being or a woman? Love for God is the connection with everything.
Did you ultimately find the power of Mary in your search?
Oh, that's a good question, Sylvia. I found her strength within me. That is the answer. The answer to all questions lies within you. That's the simple truth.
Such a simple truth, yet so complex and so important. I confirm that. Do you have anything else to tell us?
No.
Thank you so much for your wonderful insights into your perception. We learned a lot of interesting and connecting things again. Thank you for existing and for all that you do. And with these words, we will now conclude. In this book, reading about the entities that we got to meet here and wanted and were able to, and I'm really looking forward to the next interview with Gabriel, where we'll talk again about how we felt these different energies while reading, because it was really very different from anything else you have heard so far. So, different in the sense that they were different entities than you have known so far. In this sense, many thanks for listening, and I look forward to the next episode. With the little chat session, love.
Thank you, love.